Oi, Brian! Yeah, do you think if we make another 5 out of 5 defender this year, then that dickhead called, Matty MCOC is going to get angry at me again? Because Brian, I don't like it when you get angry at me. Brian, it makes me sad, Brian. I don't like it. Do you think I'm going to be okay? Am I going to be okay, Brian? Well, I don't know, Mr. CEO man, because High Evolutionary really is one of the champions that has been released so far in 2025. He is definitely a defender. Definitely a defender. That much is clear. Not that that's news to anyone at this point. That is all the talk surrounding this character. Definitely a defender. But if you thought you were going to hear me rant about Kabam releasing yet another really tough defender in 2025 and how they will inevitably release a bunch of skill characters to counter him down the line, you're wrong. Because this 5 out of 5 defender, this is one of the few cases that I will defend, that I will justify and say, okay, this is appropriate. The science class is obviously the most busted class in the game offensively. However, defensively, a lot of that work has been left to Photon. And Photon is 2 years old, right? She's really good, still defensively very, very challenging. I personally have a real phobia of Photon. However, it's time to move on. It's time to evolve. And that comes with the High Evolutionary. He is the new flagship 5 out of 5 defender for the science class. That is acceptable. Now, I will briefly summarize what makes him difficult on defense. There's any amount of content about this by now, but just to briefly summarize before we get into the chunk of this video. You remember the Mixmaster node, where you have to alternate your basic combos, otherwise the opponent evades you? He has the same thing, except it's auto-block. So that's interesting. But to make matters worse, he also will place on you a passive combo detonation. Right, so it has 16 combo you need to accumulate, otherwise you will take a burst of damage that will guarantee that you lose any Battlegrounds match you happen to be in. But yeah, so the combo detonation combined with the auto block means unless you have a champion that can artificially inflate their combo, you're not guaranteed to take a lot of damage, but it's very likely that you'll take a lot of damage. Then you have, obviously, this evolutionary field he has here, which reverses your controls, which is pretty nasty. And he has a couple immunities, which makes him, I guess, a little bit challenging, but they're heavily targeted towards the Mystic class. But yeah, that's what makes him difficult defensively. Now, for the chunk of this video, I will talk about him offensively, because I don't think I really have anything to add about him defensively. But offensively, playing this guy is just really depressing. Depressing is a good word, right? It's just depressing. You can tell he's a defender. You can tell he is designed with defense in mind first, and then they slapped on an offensive loop, like, at the end. Like, if they were feeling generous, they might give him a damage output. I'll give you a clue. They weren't feeling very generous. You can tell with certain 3 out of 5 and 4 out of 5 defenders released this year, like Spider-Woman or Jean Grey, you can tell that they were definitely designed with attacking measures in mind, and then their defensive kits were kind of added on the end. Like, you had Jean Grey's random reverse controls, and Spider-Woman's fumble, severe debuffs, and her evade. You know, those are kind of secondary to their offensive loops, but High Evolutionary really has an offensive loop sorta kinda built around his defensive loop. And there's a lot that can go wrong with that. He has a very fragile damage loop. You're going to see here against Unstoppable Colossus, I think I just about get this damage loop off. However, you're going to see there are a couple of matches later on this quest that just take an unreasonable amount of time. They take a really long time. And actually there against Unstoppable Colossus, my field fell off. So my combo detonation, my second combo detonation, did significantly less damage. So you can see there are lots of things that can go wrong and impact a damage output that is already pretty mediocre. So what you want to do with the High Evolutionary is you want to chuck off an SP2. That will place your Evolutionary field, and then you'll also apply, just by landing basic combos and chucking that special attack off, you'll apply your passive combo detonation. Now, you want to allow that combo detonation to expire midway through your first SP1, and that means that after your SP1 is over, it will reapply, and then at that point, you just want to chuck another SP1, and that will detonate the combo, and you get 2 bursts of damage in one rotation. But after that, you're dead in the water, right? That's it. That's all you've got. And I would complain that outside of his target matchups, his damage output falls off a cliff. But he's a defender, right? I'm not making the same video as I did last time about the Maker, right? He's designed to do certain things in the Mystic class, which I'll get into in a moment. But outside of those things, and as soon as anything in the fight comes in to make his rotation a little bit more complicated, he just falters. Spectacularly falters. Right, no, so he is immune to Neutralize and Rupture, making him very good against Rintra. He also has access to Exhaustion debuffs, making him a hard counter to Sasquatch. He is also, interestingly enough, immune to buffs placed on him by the opponent. So you're going to struggle taking this guy with, for example, Dr. Voodoo or with Kushala, right? So that's pretty nice defensive utility there. But also, it means that he's a very good counter to Spider-Man Supreme and Man-Thing. So he has targets in the Mystic class, and as long as there aren't too many nodes getting in the way of his damage loop, you're going to see some respectable damage output. I like the way his damage output is achieved. No other champion in the game utilizes combo detonation as their primary source of damage output. I think that's really, really cool. No champion is immune to that. It's passive. The field is passive, right? So it's all guaranteed to happen. It's just very, very fiddly and very, very undertuned, right? So if there was some sort of mechanic, something in his kit or the fight going on that just made setting this up really, really easy, for example, if the field was bigger, if he had more way of controlling where the opponent is on the map, maybe by Infuriate or Intimidate, or if that combo detonation was just a little bit more powerful, then we would have an exceptional dual threat. Because don't get me wrong, you can use this guy in lots of places. He's just not going to go anywhere very quickly. And in Battlegrounds, especially in the sort of GC metas we've had recently, you'll be lucky not to time out with how slow this guy is. Okay, so we've just killed Ghost Rider. That was done in around a minute. And you can see in the matchups in this quest where I can just very regularly just chuck off the combo, chuck off my rotation, and everything's fine. It's going to come out in around a minute very consistently, which is nice. This fight, however, something gets in the way of my damage output. And what it is actually probably Deadpool X-Force's only piece of defensive utility, which is weird. Whenever a debuff fails to apply during a combo, he places a taunt on me. Now, obviously, this is quite weird for Deadpool X-Force because he's an attacker, right, with next to no utility, and he has this, like, one defensive clause, which is somehow getting in the way of High Evolutionary, really weird. But this is kind of targeted towards the tech class, where they're immune to AAR and everything they place has a 100% chance, kind of leans into Domino, and it leans into Deadpool X-Force, which is nice. But what this does, because there's a percentage chance of me to place my exhaustion debuff, it means that I'm getting lots of taunts placed on me, which is decreasing my attack rating by quite a lot. So you can see we get this first detonation of combo shield, combo detonation, and it's just over 3,000 damage. Now, against the champions with class advantage in this quest, that was around 7 and a bit thousand, 6 and a bit thousand, 7 and a bit thousand. So it's halved my damage output. Fun. And you're going to see that when this happens, I am going to be able to complete a full loop here just before my field expires, but he's half dead. Yeah, this is going to be, by quite some margin, the slowest fight I have ever had in over half a year of doing this quest with every single new champion in the game. Right? I have my Matty MCOC 3-star leaderboard. You know, the new 3 stars race through the piece of content and I rank them on a leaderboard. I'll give you a clue. This guy is dead last by a long margin. Yeah, by quite some way he is behind Arnim Zola, who I played imperfectly, and I said I played imperfectly in a future video, right? You know, that was a bad run. High Evolutionary is much slower than that. So you can see here, we're now in the middle of our second damage rotation. We had to go all the way back up to an SB2. We had no higher damage output to return to whatsoever. Once your 2 combo detonations are over, that's it. My field fell off, which is lovely, so my detonation did around 1,000 damage. Fun. And now I'm going to be left to punch through the rest of this Deadpool X-Force with my purple gloved hands, and that is it. So we chuck off another SB1. My word, can you just die? Eventually he does die thanks to the taunts. We're at a full yellow bar, which is nice. But that was 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes You can see why I called him Depressing now. That's probably going to be the title of this video as well. High Evolutionary is just depressing. He's depressing because he's a defender, and he's depressing to play. Okay? I think that's a fair analysis. You can see we're going to get back to normal roughly with this Rogue here. We've got a couple normal fights, Rogue and then Cable. And then you're going to see, again, against Archangel, the boss, I just take this SB1 to the face like a champ. But you're going to see against Archangel, again, a larger health pool. And I don't have a way of elongating my damage rotation and then really stretching out the damage. I don't have any sort of rotation for a longer fight. I just have what I have. And that fight is also going to be very depressing. But here we chuck off the SP2. The animations look really good. I think the character is very comic accurate, which is nice. The field looks great. Kabama's certainly leaning into the kind of field, like not like trap champions, but champions that require you to be on certain bits of the map, like Carolina Dean, like the Maker, like High Evolutionary, in order to deal damage. They're leaning into that sort of champion design, which is cool. But yeah, here we apply our combo detonation again, and now it's just a matter of chucking off another SB1, and hopefully Rogue will die in this rotation. Everything was fine and dandy in this fight, that we, again, chuck off the SB1, 6,500 detonation, and she goes down in around a minute. So that is back to normal, back to usual service has been restored for High Evolutionary. And we have one more fight before the end of this quest, thank God. I am 100% going to run out of things to talk about by the time we get through that Archangel match. But yeah, I mean, that is basically all I have to say about the High Evolutionary. He's depressing because he's a defender, but that's okay. And he's depressing as an attacker because he was designed as a defender first. And while he does have certain offensive applications, the moment the nodes or the fight scenario gets a little bit more complicated or the AI starts playing up, your damage output goes from mid to nothing in 2 seconds. It's just profoundly depressing. Now, do I think we'll see some sort of rebalance for this guy? I don't know. I doubt if his defensive kit is fine, and I have a feeling it's going to be challenging, but fine. Obviously, we haven't had any of the new defenders be rebalanced whatsoever, so I doubt we'll see a rebalance of this guy defensively. But if he is a fine defender, then I'm sure Kabama fine with him as an attacker. But here you see that Cable clipped me, and that meant that I lost a few charges on my combo detonation. So even though that combo detonation expired while the field was active, and I did it with the SB1 and all's good, it barely did 3,500 damage. Now, against Rogue, it dealt 6,500. So you can see how literally any imperfection in the cycle just cuts his damage output in half, which is very depressing. I'm just going to say it over and over again until it hammers home the point. But yeah, we get out of the match in around 80 seconds. Fine. And now we just have one big bad Archangel to get through. I am going to heal up. I think that's fair. Just to make sure I don't die. If I die at this point, I'm going to be so... I was about to say depressed. I'm already depressed. I'm going to be very, very depressed if I die in this fight. Don't worry, I do survive. And we hammer on here with a 5-hit combo, and we can see we're building up our combo detonation charges. When those hit 50, or a short time after those hit 50, we will apply our detonation. Now, I think my tactic for tackling this Archangel is going to be just baiting the SB2, to be honest. I hate dodging the SB1. We're not bleed immune, we're not immune to poison, so we are definitely vulnerable to his neurotoxins. Forget, he is not poison immune. He is immune to buffs applied on him by the opponent. That's how he gets around Man-Thing. He's not poison immune. Okay, so now we apply our combo detonation. I'm again forcing a reparry to make sure I don't need to deal with an SB1. And here, hopefully, we can just bait out the SB2 from Archangel, but he's being a little bit tricky, playing hard to get. That is going to slow me down just a little bit, although I do think I get off 2 clean rotations in this fight. That combo detonation expires for around 7,000 damage. I have a feeling this guy is quite like the Maker in that he likes high rank, high rarity, and if you have this guy at the 7-star rank 3 or rank 4 level, you're going to see slightly more competitive numbers than you're seeing here. But here, my field is about to expire. We have done our full damage loop. He has still got half his health left. Wow, that is, I'm going to say it again, very depressing. And we're just left to re-ramp, right? I've got no higher damage output to return to. I have no persistent ramp throughout a longer quest. It's just this. So now we have our combo detonation back on. We're back chucking off an SB2. SB2 looks great. It's a pity it does no damage. If it did damage, that would be a little bit more satisfying. It looks alright, but Does nothing. Right, so here we chuck off an SB1 while the combo detonation expires. Nice 7.3k detonation. SB1 it finishes, it reapplies itself. Back off the SB2. Now we push him back into the field. I'm reduced to commentating because, all right, hopefully this kills him. Will this kill? I don't think this will kill. I have a feeling this won't kill. Nope. On a 4%. Nearly 8,000 detonation though, which is quite nice. And again, we are left having to punch this guy down. He does chuck off an SB1, but here I rush in, just about punish it. And, oh, I've got to chuck off an SB1, but he does die. He does die. So, this is the leaderboard, as it is right now. And as you can see, Arnim Zola down there at 629 seconds. Nico Minoru was quite a slow run. But a High Evolutionary breaking records for how slow a champion can be. Dearie me, that is atrocious. That is actually more than twice as long as Cyclops and Okoye. So both Cyclops and Okoye could do that quest twice in the time it took High Evolutionary to do it once. Wow, I'm done. I'm done with this video. But if you have made it this far, then congratulations. You have an attention span greater than that of a goldfish. And I do applaud you for staying all the way to the end. If you suffered all the way through that quest, then well done. But go away now.